UCR. What's your favorite scary movie?
I will never get over how well some of our faces fit some of those things and how obscure some of them look. It's just like our opening titles are the bomb. Congratulations, Luke. Every time I look at it, I'm like, that's some funny stuff. Katie, I hate to startle you, but there's a wild panther behind you.
Yep. Everyone say hello to my pussy.
And if that wasn't frightening enough, you are listening/watching Uncensored Horror. It's been a hot little minute since we've been here, but we are back. Just me and Katie today because everyone else is a little bit busy having a life. Lucky them. But we're here today. We're here to chat. We thought it's been a while since we've gotten a bit gory and a bit bloody, and, you know, we love to do that. Don't we, Katie?
What's a life?
So you've been busy watching. You've been busy watching everything, haven't you?
Oh my god!
You've been,
like I actually had
giving me
time
a list
to watch
of things.
I had time to watch movies for once in my life, and that
What's
never
that
happens,
like?
right? Like I'm always the one that's trying to catch up, and for once I'm like, guys, I watched things. Did you guys watch them? And you're like, no. But
Not lately.
but we did both watch Yellow Jackets. And
again, if anyone is interested in a Yellow Jackets show, Katie and I think are ready to strap on our varsity jackets and talk about it. But
and
if people want to watch it, is another thing.
I say, even if you aren't, we're probably just going to overrule you and just do it anyways because
you never
we
ever
do what we want.
We do what we want. But something we have a lot to talk about because, you know, we are neck deep now in another franchise that we didn't realize was originally we didn't realize was going to be a franchise because we talked about doing this movie when it first came out. Then all of a sudden, there's a second movie and then a third movie. So if you haven't watched our last episode, we covered 2022's 2022's by Ty West. Little did we know that also coming was 2022's Pearl, an extraordinary origin story, which I love the little tagline. Also starring Mia Goth. Now, these movies were filmed at the same time, which is kind of brilliant of Ty West, really, isn't it? When you can't guarantee that, you know, especially in today's modern climate, you can't ever guarantee anything's going to be a hit. And if you have an idea,
nothing shocks me about Ty West anymore.
It does hit. How good is it to go, oh, by the way, I have a prequel that's recorded and filmed and ready to go. It's in post-production. You're like, okay, cool. No wait, no worries. So, yeah, great work. So just to confuse things a little bit, Pearl is, as says in the title, the prequel to X. So this is the origin story of the farmers that we get to meet quite intimately in the film X. Right?
And
so
people even further because Mia Goth was a completely different character in X.
Mia Goth was both characters in X. So
that's true, but not a lot of people figured that out until they started really looking into it.
Yeah.
Because
I figured it out when I saw them both on the screen at the same time. I was like, wow, they look similar. And then it was the eyes. I was like, oh my God, that's the same person. That's amazing.
You know what else is amazing?
That's the same person? Yeah,
the speed of an 8-year-old.
Yeah, true. So they were busy little beavers. And I think we'll talk about how that worked out. But I think it's a very interesting way of filming movies. I like that we think outside the box now when we are going to franchise land, and they're not treating the audience like idiots. We can jump around in timelines and go, okay, well, this is a prequel, this is a sequel, this is where we're starting. We can go backwards, we can go forwards, we can go in between. Not out of necessity, like it has been with some of the major franchises where you're like, oh God, what do we do? We have to make some kind of transition. Let's jam a movie in here and make sure it works. But
I think some people really need you to go have things go in order. It needs to make sequential sense. And in some franchises, you really need to do that. But I think in this franchise, it doesn't necessarily need to do that. And with this franchise, they were doing it in the height of COVID. And Ty West and Mia Goth were writing this over FaceTime and during a COVID quarantine. And Tandy Wright is the intimacy coordinator. She wasn't even really an actress. The one who played
and how amazing. If there's one thing, we'll talk about it. But whew, okay, that's really interesting information. I'm like, damn, girl.
Yeah, these people stepped up their game. Like
they really did. So we're gonna get started. So again, as always on our show, if you have not seen 2022's Pearl, please pause the podcast here, watch the movie, then come back so we do not spoil it, because from here it's going to be spoilerific. Okay? You have been warned. I'm going to give you a really brief kind of synopsis without kind of ruining things, because we're going to talk about it. So we find ourselves, confusingly, back in 1918, at the height of the Spanish influenza pandemic, in a country town with young Pearl, who is recently married on her Texas homestead, her parents' Texas homestead, with Howard, her husband from the first movie. Off in World War I, she is left to care for her paralyzed father and her domineering German mother is the ruling force in her life. To say that woman is not an actress, oh my God.
Even better, she learned German in a hurry to make that accent real convincing. Real convincing. And she fooled some actual German people on set because of, like, she really committed to it. Like, that woman. She was stunning in her portrayal. So to know that she was not necessarily an actress first, but an intimacy coach, like, damn. The scene, especially the heightened scene that kind of kicks everything off into murder and mayhem, is so intense. That is some like Toni Collette Hereditary bullshit. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You're all about that life. There are some actors, like career actors and actresses that don't commit like that. Like they just go in and get paid. And this woman just wanted to like do her best. She wanted to show up, do her best, commit to the role, and be the best she could for everyone. I love that. Yeah, I love that she was a team player.
It helps the story so much. Like
it helps you get into it,
and it really does kind of give you sympathy for the devil. You know, like this movie for a big part of it makes you go, "Oh, poor Pearl. Oh, poor Pearl. Oh, poor Pearl." They're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be saying poor Pearl.
You really do for a second. You're like, man, her mom is a bitch. And then you remember, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, that's right. Okay, cool. But first and foremost, I have to hands up, clap, like throw my flowers. The production design and cinematography on this movie.
I love an old Hollywood movie, and they go to town with this. From the opening scene in the barn with the black and white, the barn doors open, and we are in glorious Technicolor, just like The Wizard of Oz. That's what Ty West said. This is a big, like, homage kind of inspiration of those MGM movies. Those kind of, and the way it's shot, the way they shoot Mia Goth, the way they, like, even screen pans when, like, she walks past in a dress, then it cuts to a new scene. It's like, it is so old Hollywood. My little heart was like this. I was like, oh, old movies. They don't make movies like that anymore. And I was just like, oh.
To really get prepared for the tone of it, he wanted Mia Goth to watch Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and The Wizard of Oz. And I mean, I've fangirled over Ty West before, but I'll do it again. I just
two amazing movies.
I mean, I love Ty West because I just think he is just one of those directors that not only loves horror but loves movies, and he commits to what he's doing. Like when he wants to get you into the scenery, he commits to it. He wants you fully engulfed. He wants no detail left untouched. He just really wants you to feel it, really feel it. And a lot of directors don't do that anymore. Love you, Ty West.
And I think the familiarity with that kind of movie really helps with this as well, and putting you in time and place, and even like cultural sensibilities. So we get the the longing, very Dorothy Gale like shots of her in the farm doing all the farm chores, and we're like, okay, we know what this kind of movie usually is, and it will slowly start to subvert that. Like the only really it's really peaceful and provincial and all that kind of stuff until that damn goose comes in. I wonder. Look, I don't like geese, right? I'm not a geese fan, but
geese are assholes.
I think any time that she picks up a pitchfork, I'd be worried.
I think it is nice to see has any type of anything in her hand is she should probably be a little worried about it. Anything that could be used as a weapon, maybe go the other way.
It's such a subvert, it's all this happy, talking to the farm animals, skipping along, daydreaming of being a performer, and then all of a sudden she's skewering a goose and feeding it to an alligator. It's like, oh, okay. And I love that that's the opening shot of her just gleefully smiling, feeding the alligator a dead goose that she's just killed.
It makes me wonder if those are the same alligators.
Well, there are eggs, so I would suggest that maybe it's generational alligatorism. The family have been feeding this alligator for a long time. And they are Germans. They are Germans who have miraculously showed up in America. I don't know if that's what they were trying to get at, because her mother was so secretive and so secluded. I don't think it was just about the influenza, because Ruth, I think her mother's name is in the movie. She is fanatical about cleaning and cleanliness and not bringing the sickness into the home where the father is, and something that we can all relate to after a pandemic. To film this in a pandemic is sheer brilliance. But I feel like there's more to that story, because she talks about, you see how they treat the German farmers, and you have to keep our secret. She says something about keeping your secret.
Well,
is there something else we need to know there?
Well, you also have to think Germans in general in that time. People were really afraid of them.
But that's a thick German accent. That's not like I was born and raised in America. That's I have come here. The way she is.
But think about it now. There are people who are Middle Eastern that came here a long time ago that probably lived here for decades and still get looked at.
I'm just wondering if there is a little bit more backstory that he has on the parents that we don't know about.
Maybe.
Like how did Dad end up in a chair, like essentially trapped in his own body? And let's talk about him actually, because that's some acting by the end. How hard is it to act without changing your facial expression at all? It's just eyes, and I'm like,
so
what?
Uncomfortable.
I know, and I think that's really the point, because
absolutely,
this whole thing is like the veneer of that, early 1920s. We'll go 1920s because it's nearly there. That early 1920s Americana perfection, like everything is idealized, but underneath all of that, you have someone like Pearl who is, yearning for something more, and that there's something not quite right with. There's this, burgeoning sexuality. There's psychopathy. It's like this is all lingering under the Technicolor surface, and the way that it kind of just starts to creep in slowly is kind of brilliant. Like the goose, and then like when she changes her cares for her father, and then is naked and in the bath.
I was gonna say the bathtub scene. I had to pause it for a second. I'm like, this is a bit much. This is a bit much, especially seeing her with I'm
kicking her legs up.
I'm just gonna jump ahead a little bit. See her with the freaking scarecrow. It's what is she gonna do to that man?
Yeah.
What is she gonna do to her poor father when he can't fight back? Seeing her go to town in the freaking scarecrow, I'm like, is this gonna get borderline
yeah, who knows?
Are we gonna go there?
No, I question that as well. So the scarecrow scene that Katie's talking about, Pearl has to ride into town on her bike to get her father's medicine. She gets distracted by the cinema and goes to see a movie. And Pearl has grand ambitions of being a chorus girl and being a star. I'm a star, as we'll find out later. So she's enthralled by the movies, which is escapism at its core. That's what the movies are for. Mm-hmm. She meets the projectionist. Oh, Hachi Machi.
Oh yeah, he's not.
He was good looking. Mm-hmm. He was good looking fella.
Yeah, and he distracted me too, quite honestly.
Yeah, he shows her a little bit of kindness and snips part of the reel, so she has a cell from the movie that she saw because she was so infatuated with it, and invites her to come back anytime.
Yeah, so, he shows her something.
Yeah, that's later. This is still nice and innocent. So while Pearl is riding home, she loses the cell out of her pocket of her dungarees / overalls, whatever country you're in, coveralls, wherever country you're in, and wanders into a cornfield where she finds a very weird looking scarecrow. I thought those eyes were going to open at any second. I was like, those eyes are a bit too bulbous for my liking on a scarecrow. Yeah. But yeah, she has a little bit of a fantasy scene with the scarecrow, a dance scene that ends up in a love scene, which is kind of...
she takes the scarecrow for a ride.
Off-putting. Yeah, she takes advantage of the scarecrow. The scarecrow is a Me Too, it's now part of the Me Too movement. That was very non-consensual, what happened to the scarecrow.
Which is why I kind of thought it was going to be another non-consensual scene in the bathtub. Made me a little worried.
So she is so under the thumb with her mother that Ruth realizes that there are 8 cents missing from the money that Pearl was given to get the medicine, which she has actually partaken in as well. It's liquid morphine, as good stuff.
Yeah, I thought that
A
was
bit of
great. Like just
swinging the
movie,
morphine and watch the movie. Like, yes.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I'm like, yeah, I get that. Okay. Okay.
And then we have like a mummy dearest moment where Ruth she lies to Ruth and says that she's eaten candy, and then Ruth says that's fine. Well, you don't need to eat dinner then. And she withholds her dinner and makes her stay at the dinner table. I'm like, oh.
That's a little much.
Like, wow, okay. It's that's mummy dearest material. I was like,
but I also thought she could have come up with a better lie. Like, you're kind of old to be eating candy. Like, come on.
But I think that's the whole part of it. So we have to realize, like, we have to get this juxtaposition of her being a married woman, but still living with her parents and, being infantilized by her mother, who just refuses to see her as an equal and is treating her like she's still a child. And I think that's a huge part of the dynamic between those two, that Pearl is being stagnated by her mother from growing up and out. She all she wants is to get off the farm and get away, and her mother is definitely not letting that happen. This is where we meet Pearl's cousin, Mitzi.
Don't you love that every rich person you've ever met in a TV show or a movie is either named Muffy or Mitzi?
I just feel a bit sorry for Mitzi. I'm like, oh God, if you only knew.
I just think it's funny. It's like, come on, can we come up with a new name for the rich person in the movie or the TV show?
But you know what I thought was interesting? Ordinarily, a character like that would be a bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Mitzi's actually very compassionate.
The rich sister-in-law, like the well-off sister-in-law.
They're very kind to that family. They're trying to take care of them. They bring them a pig to eat because they are struggling. Like Ruth says that they struggle on the farm, and like she knows every cent, which is how she knows the 8 cents was missing. And that was more than one meal there. You know what I mean? That was right.
That was substantial.
It's kind of strange that they don't trust their own family. Yes and no, I guess. But you'd think
we all know people that are too proud to take charity. You know what I mean?
True.
I think that Ruth, if we're looking at Ruth as this character that is self-sufficient, strong, secretive, she's not the kind of person to take charity from anyone.
This is true.
And they're not her blood family. They are the family of Pearl's husband, but they're not blood, so they're automatically other. I think they're automatically outside. So that, we don't see we see what happens, but we don't hear what happens in that interaction. We see Ruth basically refusing it, but Mitzi is trying to do the right thing and see how Pearl is and how she's doing without her husband, and let's slip that there is a dance audition coming up for chorus girls. Chorus girls in a church group?
Touring.
The 1918s was a different time, man. Like, they were touring dance troupes for the church. I'm like, okay.
I mean,
whatever. At the height of the war, but that's cool.
I've got to wonder if it was like a USO group.
Yeah, but it's weird that it was told through the church. It's like,
right,
okay.
But that's what I've got to wonder, if it was like USO.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
maybe they didn't have the rights to it.
Who knows? But this is what Pearl sees as her out. Yeah, Pearl's like, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be me being famous. I can get out. I can, have the life that I want. So she steals her mother's dress once again, which she did before, and no. But she manages to get out of that house, which I was surprised with. And you can tell that house was a physical set too, because she managed, like, that whole shot was one tracking shot. I was like, oh, look,
one big set. That's nice to see. It's like, oh, okay. She goes out of her window, across the roof and down. I'm like, yes.
I love shots
One
like
big
that. Just
giant
nice,
set. We love it.
clean shots. Just
Beautiful.
mhm.
So she is, in her yearning to be free, she goes to visit the projectionist again. I love that he doesn't have a name in this movie as well. It's just the projectionist. And he
Men
said
don't
he would
need
show
names.
her any movie she likes at any time she likes, but he has something quite different to show her. It's a film called A Free Ride, which is a stag film he acquired in France. He acquired in France.
It's a
And
terrible movie.
Pearl is, to say infatuated is you know, an understatement. I think she, for someone that is, you know, that sheltered, seeing that kind of blew her mind and was like, okay, and then it really informs what we see in X.
I love how that all kind of ties in, like,
Yeah,
you know, the porn
definitely.
and this, and then
I got a lot of feelings about that. We'll talk about it
It
again.
just
I'm like,
stops.
oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
it's just
but yeah, it's just like those seeds are planted, and she ultimately, you know, cheats on her husband.
scandalous.
Oh, yes.
Who saw that cut?
And because this one man believes that she can be a star, says he can see her on the screen. She's beautiful. She gets everything she wants from this interaction.
Very
But
grasping heart.
yeah, exactly. And she lets in on her yearning to be free, and that she's basically stuck and wishes that her family would just die. Ooh. Which causes a bit of a pause moment for
It's like,
for
okay.
our projectionists.
Like, yeah.
Oh wait, they haven't slept together yet. No, that's later, isn't it? Sorry. Whoops.
They sleep together.
Yeah,
We're
they
going.
sleep together.
We're a little out of order, but
Afterwards, sorry,
they sleep together.
I accelerated the story because the story accelerates now. That's right.
It's weird because
She goes home after. Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah,
weird because
sorry.
she talks about how much she hates her family, wishes they were dead, and like red flags everywhere, and this guy still sleeps with her. Like,
Well, yeah. So
Still goes
she's
for it.
kind of. I think that statement being put out there, it's almost given her permission to go ahead and go, I can change this. I don't have to wait. So there's a very tense scene where she's already like kind of testing the boundaries with Dad to see, like, when she pinches him and chokes him, it's like she's like, are you even still in there, or are we just caring for a husk of a person?
mhm.
And then she takes him down to the dock. I was like, oh, this is gonna be graphic. Just hovers over the lake and calls the alligator.
Mm.
And she's basically saying, I have to go. This is the nicest way of doing this. Like, really? But Ruth just happens to show up in time, luckily, and send her back to the house, which is probably the biggest mistake of Ruth's life, let's be honest. Because there is another awkward dinner, despite the fact there is a rotting pig on their doorstep. That would stink. Oh, it would stink. But
I
okay,
guess
anyway.
like if you work on a farm, you're kind of used to smelly things.
This is where the movie goes crazy. So we've seen like bits and pieces of cruelty and like minor psychopathy breaking through when she skewers the goose. She crushes the alligator egg. But this is where it happens because Ruth discovers the program from the movie that Pearl went to see, and she destroys it and goes in on Pearl in a way that I haven't seen in a hot minute in a movie. The acting between these two was intense. I was like, oh, like it's every like bad mother-daughter relationship amplified up to 10 with them screaming at each other. And yeah, it really did remind me of Toni Collette's dinner table scene in Hereditary. Like, that's the level of acting that was there, especially from the mother. I was like, oh wow. Mia Goth gets her big acting chops scene later, but this is the mother. I was like, wow. And especially when she grabs the knife and she goes, maybe I'll kill him for you, that's what you want, and like holds the knife to her husband's throat. I'm like, oh god, this movie's just twisted and turned. But then, you know, we get a bit violent, and Mia Goth comes to the party and gets physical with Mum and pushes her and screams in her face, and unfortunately pushes her dresses into the open fire. And we have Mum barbecued Mum.
Yeah.
That she then has to throw boiling water on to put her out. I'm like, oh, what? That's not okay. Boiling water and corn. It's like, oh no.
Like the second I saw that, I'm like, you didn't have to use the boiling water. There was probably a blanket around there somewhere.
A bit of
I thought it was an interesting. It was an interesting touch.
In for a penny, in for a pound. Obviously, it's like
he was going for it. It's like, but it's very Ty West. It's like,
so yeah, like
we're gonna go for the shock. We're gonna go for it, all the way.
And I think, yeah, in the shock of what she has done, she drags Mum to the basement and leaves her down there, locks her away, and this is when she goes and has sex with the projectionist. Sorry, this is the destruction of her pamphlet and her mother denying her to go to the audition is what really like sends her over the edge. It's like, oh, bye, Pearl. Pearl's gone. We've lost Pearl, well and truly.
In the morning, she was throwing red flags everywhere. He still went for it. Like, you're not
a lot of red.
You're not a bad-looking dude. You don't need to go for the crazy. Like,
they just picked the wrong girl this time.
Like, I get it. I get it. They say crazy women are the best in bed. I get it. I've heard it said a time or two about myself. I get it. But I'm not locking Kyle in the basement. Shut up, Kyle.
Not that we know of. Not that we know of. So the morning after,
Grayson's yelling, "Kyle's not here," and ruining the joke. Go to bed, Grayson.
Guess who's going to the basement next?
You're going down there with them.
So the morning after arrives, and this guy is being too nice. I think drives her home. Like, it's a one-night stand. You're not supposed to drive that person home, especially when I'm pretty sure she knows she's married, right? I think that they said that. Anyway, but whatever. And Pearl has definitely left reality because she invites him in the house after she does a quick retcon of everything that's going on, make sure Mum's locked downstairs and Dad's presentable. But he notices straight away that something's a little off on the farm with the maggot-infested pig at the front door. And she meets Dad, and they go upstairs and start to fool around. They hear noises downstairs, and Pearl's like, "Oh, it's just a dog. I had to lock her in the cellar." Okay, cool, no worries. So they go outside to the barn, where she introduces him to all of the other animals, all her friends. And then he mentions the dog. She says, "We don't have a dog."
Whoops.
Oh. This is, again, there's these oops moments in this movie where you're like, oh no.
Girl,
you in danger, girl. You in danger. And it's, again, we've said this about a couple of movies that where people play people with mental illness, that some people you feel and some people you don't. You can definitely feel the temperature change in that moment. You go, oh,
It's that look that Mia got.
and she knows, and she's like, why have you turned so cold on me? You're like, oh shit,
That blank
because she
stare
knows he knows.
That blank stare she gives, whether like, she does like when she's smiling or even when she's not. It's just that.
She knows, he knows, and he knows, she knows, and it's just the tension is there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, all right, Pearl, I gotta go. I'll see you later. And Pearl snaps. She's a very fast girl, though.
Oh.
Even when she's an old woman, she's a fast old woman. She can get out a shot real quick.
Oh, God.
Because we don't see Pearl. We see Pearl pick up her best friend, the pitchfork, but we don't see Pearl until she drives it into his chest.
Did she do javelin in high school?
I don't know.
On the track team
She's
or
a
something?
strong girl. She's a strong farmer girl.
I need to know.
In shock, the car starts rolling down the hill, and he starts to escape, and she starts chasing him, screaming. I love it. Like when she goes full tilt crazy, it's some of the best stuff in the movie when she's like screaming and running. It's chilling. And he falls out of the car, and she has to now, finish the job. And through the mouth, Ty West, through the mouth. Through the mouth.
Doesn't shock me. Does
with
not
the with the pitchfork. So he is taken care of. And suspension of disbelief, we have to remember that this is 1918. This is a farm. There would be no neighbors for miles. So you could murder someone in your front yard without anyone knowing. And, that's just the way things go. It's like, oops. Bye-bye. So this is full tilt. Full tilt. The rage in Pearl is absolutely unleashed. She feeds the poor projectionist to the alligator Theta. Theta. And it's nice to see because we do see a car in the pond in X. So it's like, okay, we're dropping Easter eggs, reverse Easter eggs, I guess. Alligator eggs. Alligator eggs. And Pearl has to do what she has to do now. She puts on one of her mother's best dresses, and before she leaves the house, she has to take care of Daddy. Now, Daddy does some amazing eye acting here. Like this dude, like the fear that he manages to portray without uttering a single word before he is smothered to death is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that these aren't like big name actors as well. These are just, working actors who Ty West was like, yep, you. I pick you.
Mm-hmm.
Even me, who is Mia Goth? Like Mia Goth was no one before X. So I like that we still have movies like that aren't necessarily B movies, because this could very much be a B movie. It has the B movie qualities and situations, but the acting and the directing and the cinematography and the production design lift it to something that is different that you don't normally see a lot of in horror either. But this, it's kind of midway between satirical horror and highbrow horror, elevated horror, it's a weird little place to sit where you have these tropes that are so well known, but you can still deliver with the intensity of the story and the intensity of the acting. Because once Pearl smothers Dad, it's well and truly done. There's no turning back. She's gotten rid of her old life essentially, and she's going for that audition. And we see the audition. It's beautiful. her Technicolor war fantasy with a line of dancers. You know, it's just amazing. Like, it's so. It is what you would imagine someone with, you know, not a lot of worldly experience would imagine as highbrow entertainment, like bombs exploding and dancing girls and all this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
To say the audition doesn't go well is an understatement. And girl, for anyone that has been on the stage and been in front of a panel and they've heard thank you but no, this is the kind of reaction you want to have sometimes. I feel you, Pearl. I'm a star! I'm a star, please! I'm a star! I'm a star! And like, screaming, like she has to be dragged off the stage when told she's not really what they're looking for. They're looking for someone a little more blonde. And all American.
Fucking blondes.
Cue to cousin Mitzi, blonde cousin Mitzi, consoling Pearl, and offering to take her home.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as Mitzi said, "Can I take you home, Pearl?" I was like, "Don't
Girl,
do it,
you
girl.
in danger.
You in danger. You are in danger." And this is where we get Mia Goth's, you know, capital A acting moment. This is her. I think, like, when we look back in her career, I think this will be one of the parts they show and go, this girl is not just a scream queen. She has the chops behind it. Because she delivers this monologue. I can imagine this is probably one take as well. In the kitchen, Pearl talks all about her resentment that Howard, who was supposed to be her way out, you know, from a rich family that you know, that knew the world and experienced the world, married her and then left her at home with her family. And she also admits that she actually was pregnant and miscarried and was happy about it, which, hello, in 1918. Ooh. So it's all about, you know, her feelings of insecurity, alienation, you know, stagnated growth, and then she admits to, you know, enjoying harming small animals and all that thing. And then kind of just goes full tilt and talks about her parents and the projectionists. It's like, okay. And Mitzi was just trying to help her sister-in-law, and by the end of the conversation, she's just going,
yeah, just, you know, getting up and slowly leaving. And
but again, you could cut the tension in that room with a knife. I'm like, that's a performance. That is a performance and a half, and Mitzi is just trying to back out of that room. And I think she would have made... All right. In her delusion, Pearl believes that because Mitzi is blonde and pretty and rich, that she has been cast as the chorus girl, and makes her Mitzi admit, even though it's not true, that she was cast. Do you think if she hadn't, that she would have made it out?
No, she was never getting out of there.
Yeah, I think she was fucked either way, because if she was like, "Why are you lying to me? Why are you lying?"
No, as soon as Mitzi's just, you know, saying, "I'm not going to tell anyone about what you just told me," and all that, it's like, well, you just kind of sealed your own fate right there.
Exactly, and she underplays that so well too. I think a lot of time in horror, people are like, "I'm not going to tell anyone. It's okay." Everything is so calm. And I think that's what's really off-putting, because, again, when dealing with people, with mental illness. That snap, that change, you can feel in the air, and that's one of these moments of real tension, which I like because we know he's not afraid of doing gore and violence, but actual personal danger and horror, like if you've ever been in that situation, you know what the electricity in the air feels like when that happens, and you know, like, oh my god, I have to get out of here. And Mitzi does her best. Look, she does her best, and we think she's out until Pearl turns up at the door. And as soon as I saw the axe when Mitzi walked past, I'm like, oh no.
Like, oh, poor Mitzi.
So Pearl runs down her sister-in-law and takes care of her with an axe. Very Lizzie Borden of her.
Then takes care of Theta.
Yeah, she takes care of Theta, makes sure Theta is well and truly fed, you know. Poor. I think Mitzi's the hardest stuff, because if she was a bitch, she would have deserved it.
Right, and you feel bad for Mitzi, because Mitzi's just trying to take care of her family and trying to make her feel better and trying to do right, and didn't deserve what happened. I mean, none of them really deserve what happened, but you just feel the worst for probably the father and Mitzi.
Yeah, father, mum and Mitzi, yeah, definitely. So at this point, she goes to mum for a little bit of reassurance.
Oh God, it's just
dead mother who has tried to get out of the storm cellar. Like, you know, she would have been in horrendous agony and died that way trying to get away. But this is when the break with, I think this is the big dissociation. Like, we're done. She imagines her mother and is still alive and, you know, caressing her and all that kind of thing. And Pearl decides that she should do what her mother said and make the best of what she has. Which turns into some Texas Chainsaw Massacre bullshit by, you know, trying to recreate the perfect home life that she used to have with dead mum and dad at the dinner table with the maggoted pig as the centerpiece. Like the dissociation thing clicked into full tilt, but I thought it was really interesting when they were doing the audition that the people in the audition panel were all of the people that were holding Pearl back. It was Ruth, it was her father, it was Howard. I can't remember who the fourth person was. It was the projectionist guy. That's right. All those characters were the ones that took place of the judges. I'm like, smart stuff. I love it. I love a gradual mental breakdown. And then we've had these visions of Howard returning from war a few times during the movie. But we actually get it in reality, and poor Howard. I'd like to issue an apology to Howard from the last movie. I thought you were a creep. Turns out you were just dealing with a whole lot of crazy. Because he walks in and finds the very macabre scene of a family dinner and a manically smiling Pearl expressing how glad she is that he's home. Mm-hmm. Cut to a very, very protracted fisheye close-in as Mia Goth, and this is acting, capital A acting, as we watch her struggle to maintain that smile that, you know, everything's fine, I'm perfect, the veneer. I'm surprised she didn't crack her teeth or something. Like, the tension in that woman's jaw and in her face, and her eyes do so much in that tiny little scene. Like, there's anger, there's pain, there's fear, there's misery. She she's crying. She's like almost there's snot. She's sweating. I'm like, that's capital A acting. I'm like, end of film. Like, wait, what? But we made it. We survived. No one else did. I think it's funny that there is one person that, you know, survived, and it's a husband that only turns up in the last reel, but that's okay. We lived for that. So let's talk to me. Katie, I've been talking a lot. Feelings.
Oh, God. I feel like I liked X better, honestly. I
Yeah.
liked Pearl, but I really feel like, I know this was an origin story, but I really kind of feel like, I don't know. I really liked X a lot better. I feel like
Okay.
I'm trying to like put all my, I'm trying to like put my feelings into words. Like they both had a lot of, for lack of a better word, they both had a lot of meat to them. But I feel like X had a like. I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. Pearl was really like mono-themed, right? Like we're focused on Pearl. While
Yeah.
X, like just you got to feel it out. Like you got to know these characters. You got to really like get invested in all of them. And it had a lot of heart to it. I feel like I didn't really care much. I liked Misty. Not Misty, Mitzi. I'm getting yellow. I'm getting my yellow jackets mixed up with my Pearl.
One way or another, Yellow Jackets will be mentioned.
I told you people were going to talk about Yellow Jackets, whether you like it or not. But like, and I just really like when I watch a movie, horror or not, I really want to like really get invested in a character, and not really invested in Pearl because I can't.
That's
like,
fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Like I know she's a psychopath, and I know that Psycho's gonna psycho, and I know. And I have a certain amount of empathy for her because I realize she's probably a bit traumatized because mom's a bit overbearing. But then again, psychos don't need trauma to snap.
So do you have, just playing devil's advocate here, do you think movies like Hannibal, like the prequel movies in like the Hannibal series and anything that we've...
Well, here's the thing about Hannibal,
do you have the same problem with that?
No, but Hannibal Lecter was a lot more likable than Pearl. Like, he was very charming. He was charming as hell.
You're just going to be a sociopath. Okay, right. Okay, I'm with you.
There's a difference there because Hannibal Lecter was charming as hell. Pearl, she's just not likable. She's just a bitch. She's just very self-involved. She's just, I'm a star! Like, she's out for number one. She's just out for her. There's just not much to get invested with her. And I like the movie overall. Like, I do like this movie, but I did like X much better.
It's okay. We're going to do a little bit of a cut ourselves. We're going to take our axe and hack away at this footage because the lovely Luke is not here to join us today, but he has some feelings on X and Pearl, so they're probably going to cross over, Pearl and X, and yeah, he's going to talk to you right now.
Hey, Uncensored horror fans. So my feeling about Pearl is that if you are like me, you will be quite excited for Maxxxine coming out because this movie really gave us the familiarity of X, where we have the same set piece again, but they managed to dress it up and like restore it all, and that's our little lead into this is now Pearl's backstory. I thought it was very well done. Mia Goth turned in a magnificent performance. That monologue at the end and done in one take, that was amazing work. The whole thing, I think it was a great little. It had like slasher stuff happening, so it was definitely a horror category. And I think I give it, I don't know, 8 dead ducks out of 10.
Okay, well, that's Luke's point of view. Pointy as probably a pitchfork you would find lodged into your chest. All right, now my final thought. My final thoughts on this. I have to say that I think I am probably alone, but I'm used to being alone on some franchises. I really liked this movie. I think as soon as it started, and I saw the direction we were going with production design and cinematography, like, I'm in, sign me up, give it to me. I love anything that reeks of old Hollywood, and this reeks of old Hollywood. And I love subversive horror as well. So for us to have, you know, I might also be the fact that I have grown up as a performer and understand that I think famous, take me away from this, and if I'll do anything to just, you know, have a life that will kind of negate anything bad that's happened to me. If I could just be famous, that's a very immature, you know. Any performer, if they are honest with themselves, I think can relate to that and go, I feel you, girl. I feel you. I'm not a psychopath, but I feel you.
Are you sure?
I think the quality of the acting and the backstory that they have given Pearl in this movie makes me look at X again and makes me like X more than I did. Because I thought it was good. It just didn't like really blow my hair back. But knowing what I know now about Pearl, yeah, I'm about it. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. And I think you should probably watch them in chronological order. I think you should watch Pearl first if you want to get more out of X. That's just my opinion. I think that, you know, there are there's little nods in Pearl to events and situations in X, but I think they would still work either way, no matter which way you watched it. It gave me a lot more respect for Mia Goth as an actress, because I don't know that she got to do a lot of, like, when she was Pearl. I don't know that as, you know, was it Mimi or Meanie or whatever her name, Maxxxine, wasn't it? Maxxxine, because, yeah, hello. We'll talk about that in a second. I don't know that she got to use a lot of chops in that role, but as Pearl, the older Pearl, she was ultimately creepy, and as young Pearl, she did derange really, really well, which then makes her performance as Maxie even more impressive, as subtle as it was compared to these big scene-chewing parts that she's done. So, yeah, I really liked it. I don't mind a bit of psychosis in my characters. I don't have to like everyone that I see on screen. I'm fine with that. And I thought it was really interesting in a way that we don't see a lot in modern horror. And it helps to have that throwback vibe as well, that makes you think of older movies that are, for want of a better word, more highbrow / classic, or they're perceived as, because we know that this genre always has a problem with being seen as like gutter and trash and, you know, not worthy of critical acclaim and especially critical awards. But Mia Goth is, I can't wait to see what she does outside the genre. Like, she is a scream queen. There is no doubt. Her, Jenna Ortega, they are this generation's scream queens. We see that for them, but I think there's more for her.
I don't understand how you can look at performances like this and like Toni Collette
and not see it. Yeah, how can you not see the talent that is in these women? The fact that there are A, women, and B, horror stars is the biggest problem.
like, okay, it's a horror film, but when you think about like the material, it's edgy material. It's hard material to do. Like horror is a hard genre. It's not
Definitely
just
when it's done
easy.
done well, it's hard. Yeah, like
Right.
I think we have a lot. There's still a lot of hangover from those late 70s, early 80s, like mid 80s, like going into 90s sequels that kind of really tarnished big brands with less than stellar acting because they were trying to get the product out. They weren't looking for people to deliver. Then you get someone that pops up in the 90s like Neve Campbell, who is an actress first.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Say what you want about Neve Campbell and the current situation with Scream.
Mhm.
She is never a problem with those movies. There's a reason why she's the linchpin in the majority of them, because she can act the house down just with her face. Like you go back, even now, I can go back and watch the original Scream and think, damn, you were young and you are doing so much with just your reactions to things and not the most like big, oh my God, there's a killer after me moments. Those are great, but it's the minutia, those little parts that work so well, like Mia Goth does in this movie.
But this is why I have problems with films like the Terrifier films, because it takes away from films like this, like Midsommar, like Hereditary,
The Witch.
like it takes away from films like this. Like, yes, there's gore in it. Yes, it's bloody, but it's not that way to be shocking. It's shocking because it's written to be shocking. It's not shocking.
I think that's
like
we went through the same thing when Saw and all that torture porn stuff was, high on the hog.
Right.
Terrify that I think they're doing these are diametric ends of the horror genre,
Right.
There are some people that are fans of the killers. They want to see the gore, they want to see how gross a movie can be and how, all the googly what's it. Then there's people who want to see story and character development and, psychological horror mixed amongst with, of course, like a horror movie, you want to go in and be scared, but sometimes you've got to be a bit smarter to be scared. Like, I will never forget the amount of people that when I was working at a DVD store, that I recommended the Babadook to, like, oh, that's not scary.
Oh God, I love the Babadook.
Like, wait, like, how did we watch the same movie in the same way? I'm like,
it's so good.
but and some people just aren't psychological horror film people. Do you know what I mean? Some people aren't elevated horror film people. And that's fine. Some of it, I think, disappears up its own ass too. You're like, oh, okay, we get it. You're being smart horror. We get it. But then I don't love the gore porn stuff either. That's not for me. I don't do gross for gross sake.
Don't get me wrong.
I'm happily in the middle.
like, don't get me wrong. I could watch a film like Cocaine Bear all day. I love films like that too. Like I love the campy stuff. I love that stuff too. But I'm still going to get on board with the Babadook. I love that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I want films like that to come out. I want films like that. Jennifer Kent, right? She blew my mind. That movie almost put me into labor. It was so, it was amazing. And I want films like that to be taken seriously. And it should have won an award. It should have won an award. But instead, you've got people going, that kid was annoying. You didn't get the film then.
The amount of people that really are either behind Toni Collette, like this Toni Collette performance from Hereditary, I always said, this should be awarded. This should be seen as a critical, a critical success for the acting. Like, that's not even capital A, that is capital letters all the way through, exclamation marks underlined. The acting she did in that movie. And it's viral now. People are like, Toni Collette Hereditary. And that's rewarding. I think that's ultimately we're seeing that people are seeing it. So it might not be far off that we see some horror breaking through into the awards season.
I mean, the closest we've gotten
We'll
so
see.
far is Get Out, but and it deserved it. It deserved it.
And look, and before that, look, it was probably what Jodie Foster, Silence of the Lambs.
Didn't The Exorcist get somewhere too? I want to say.
Yeah, but that was before that. That was
Right,
long
but like,
before.
well, I mean,
We'll see how they go
We're
with these new
trying.
Exorcist movies.
We're trying. We're
Look,
trying.
horror is working,
We're
but
trying.
we
But
have
yes.
to get to the you know, the meat of the matter, as it were. Katie, how many rotting pigs are you going to give?
Oh, I was going for pitchforks, but
Nah, it's got to be rotting pigs.
okay. 3.5 rotting pigs out of 5. I really
Very nice.
I know I really enjoyed this film. Like I
Yeah.
love me some Ty West. I'm a big Ty West fan. It was a great film, beautifully done. Just I'd like Tex more. I mean
That's cool.
Mia Goth is just I can't wait to see Maxxxine.
She's
It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's anything like these two, it's just gonna be so good.
I'm going to give it 5. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with this movie. Usually, I can pick something that I would like to change or like to add or subtract. Pretty good. She's pretty tight, and that's a big call. She's pretty tight. So 5 rotting pigs for me.
She's pretty tight.
She's pretty tight, but we are, as Katie just said, expecting a third and final entry in the X franchise, as it is now known, with Maxxxine spelled MAXXXINE, due to make its debut on screen sometime this year, depending on how far they got ahead with filming before the writers' strike. Now, I would assume pretty far because there has been like a trailer and posters and stuff. So this Maxxxine picks up in the 70s/80s, I believe. We're bordering because X was the 70s. Maxxine's going to be in the 80s in mainstream porn. So it's very interesting that we have watched the
It is
graduation of
marketed in
sexuality.
Post-production zone.
There you go. Yeah. So we've gone from sexuality being a private thing to a not talked about thing to a mass produced thing. This is going to be all about Maxxxine Mix, after surviving the the total bloodshed that was X, finally making it to the big time of commercial porn back when it was huge in the 80s. And we'll see
And what
what
cast.
twists and turns that has to take. And the cast is pretty chunky, right? They've gone from no names to Katie. Do you want to share some of the names that are going to be appearing?
I mean, you may know some of these people. I mean, Halsey, Michelle Moynihan. There's just a little known actor. I don't know, Kevin Bacon. Maybe you've heard of him. He might have done a few things here and there. Giancarlo Esposito. I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy. I think he's done a few things. Maybe.
Yeah. So
Maybe.
these are names.
I think this guy's pretty big. Bobby Cannavale, maybe. I think I'm pronouncing that name right, maybe. I think that guy's done something. I think, was it The Sopranos that guy did?
Look, there is a great mix of people in there. That is undeniable. And actors too. Like, you know.
Actors.
Actors.
Lily Collins. She might have done something here or there.
I think we're going to get some kind of
I want to know what Kevin Bacon's. I really want to know. I
feel like. Do you know what vibe I'm getting from this? I'm getting a Neon Demon meets Showgirls kind of moment set in the porn world.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what it's going to be. It's going to be some kind of weird fucking serial killer cannibalistic hallucinogenic 80s phantasm.
I love the shot of like her Mia Goth and Halsey just walking down. I can only assume like some I'm gonna assume like Ventura Boulevard or something like that. I don't know. some big street in Los Angeles. I don't know any of the streets in Los Angeles.
It's gonna be. It's
But I love
definitely gonna
Halsey
be
so
something.
much. So it's gonna be good.
Yeah, and she hasn't done a lot of acting, has she?
No, she hasn't, but Halsey's I'm a Halsey fangirl, so she can do no wrong.
She's been doing lots. She's a musician, but we don't mind when musicians act as long as they
she's
about that life.
She is edgy enough to pull it off, though. I think she can do it.
She is edgy. So we are going to be checking in with you at some point to watch the culmination of this whole story and see where it all takes us when Maxxxine hits the big screen. But until then, we will be back, but we will be visiting you with some other little video nasties. I have a plan, but we have to talk about it off screen because it's a big plan. But we know you love a franchise that we haven't tackled yet.
I want to do some Nicolas Cage movies.
I'm just putting it out there. There's a franchise that we haven't touched yet that is very big, iconic. One of the major franchises in horror. That there's rumblings that something is coming. Maybe sooner than we think, too. If you go back in some of our interviews, we talked to a member of the cast of one of these movies, a couple of these movies, and she gave us a little bit of a tidbit on something that might be happening, and it sounds like it might actually be happening. So do some research if you haven't been into the hallowed halls of Uncensored Radio. We have thousands of hours of programming. Look at our celebrity interviews. Look at everything we've got going for you. You see our live Real Talk Roundtable. What had happened was Uncensored Confessions. We got it all for you. But this has been Uncensored Horror. Katie and I thank you for joining us, and we will get gory with you again soon, ghoulies. Stay safe and stay out of the barn.